Hello and welcome to Youth in Agriculture, and as always, this is where I bring you to different parts of this country where we get to feature Kenyan youth who have identified opportunities along the value chain. Today we are coming to you from Lari in Kiambu County, where we will be featuring George Muturi, who is an organic farmer and has integrated varieties of activities on his farm. Today we are going to be focusing on Azola farming, and for those of you who don't know what Azola is, it's an aquatic plant which has been tested and proven to be very ideal, very rich in protein content, and is being used widely by livestock farmers. So George will be telling us more about Azola and how you can be able to plant it and how it can be able to increase your production. George, thank you so much for having us today.
You're much welcome.
Thank you for this is Youth in Agriculture.
Yeah.
So tell us more about how you got into farming and why you chose this direction of organic farming.
So I'm George Muturi, the founder of Comfort Worms and Insects, and I've been into farming for now about 7-8 years now. Since I started, I finished high school, I got direct into farming. I started doing chicken. Though it was not that big, I was aspiring to grow and get to be producing more chicken, eggs. But the challenge of feeds started driving me away from chicken farming. I started looking at the alternative sources of feeding the chicken. That is now where I got into what I'm currently doing, the worms farming, insects, and Azola. So I have been now able to try out those 3 types of farming, evaluating which one is good for the chicken, which one is commercially viable. And so far I have been able to evaluate that and see which one can be good for the chicken or either for any kind of livestock, so that it can either help me or any other farmer to be able to lower their cost of production.
How did you get into Azola farming? How is it? Did you do research? Did somebody share the idea with you?
I have been so much into trying on looking on new things that are happening, especially in the agriculture sector. Once I started with the earthworms, then I got into black soldier flies. Then now later on, when I was into black soldier flies, I was also still trying to look into a way which can be more easier for me to produce a source of protein for the chicken. So, and that is when I came across the Azola. Mostly on the internet, I got a lot of information. That is where I got to know about the Azola. From then, I learned how I can be able to produce it, what it requires. Then now, from that point, I started looking onto how I can get now the seeds or the plant itself so that I can plant. And after trying to search for it for a number of months, I finally got it, and that is how I was able to introduce it at the farm.
I can see that we have Azola right here.
Yeah.
So you can take us through the entire process of how you plant it and how long it takes and how you harvest it,
Yeah.
and how exactly do you feed it.
So now for the Azola, it's pretty easy to produce. As I was saying, I was also trying to look into a way that one can be able to produce easily the sources of protein. So I got to run different ways on how you can be able to produce the Azola, because one, what you require is just water and nutrients. So nutrients mainly, we can talk about manure, composted manure, organic fertilizer. Other people use synthetic fertilizers. So there are different options one can use, but for me I have been using mainly manure or compost, vermicompost to say. Because once I use it, I see production is much faster, and considering that I'm into organic farming, I look into options that won't go into the synthetic way. So once I have now the compost, I need now a pond. That is how I'm able to get these ponds, to come up with these ponds. Very shallow. We make a pond of 1 foot deep, because the more it gets to be deeper, you need more nutrients. So we just make a pond that is 1 foot deep. We bring we put the compost. We look at the size. Different sizes, we use different amounts of the compost. Then we, after now putting in the compost, now that is when we introduce the water. so that if there is anything that is going to float from the compost, we can be able to scoop it out. Then now the third step that we do, now that is introducing now the Azola. The Azola do not produce seeds per se, because it does split. So the growth, how it grows, it continues to split from one plant, it gets to be 2 plants, 3 plants, like that.